At Thanksgiving, I heard my granddaughter say, "I hope she chokes so we can sell the house." My son laughed. I said nothing. That night, I changed my will and left a note in the turkey pan. They found it too late. I didn't say anything when I heard it. Just stood there with the gravy spoon in my hand, back to the kitchen doorway, staring down at the half-empty turkey pan like I'd just forgotten where I was. But I hadn't. I'd heard it. Every word. I hope she chokes so we can sell the house. That was Olivia's voice, my granddaughter. My son's daughter. 22 years old, home from her new apartment in Manhattan. She said it so casually, like she was talking about the weather. Then came David's laugh. That guttural little chuckle he does when he thinks something's clever but doesn't want to come off too loud. He didn't say, "Hey, that's enough." Didn't scold her or correct her. He just laughed. I'd invited 12 people for Thanksgiving this year. Same as always. I still cooked everything myself. The stuffing recipe came from my mother, and the gravy, I make that from the pan drippings, not from a packet like people do now. I've had arthritis in both hands since 2017, and my knees swell if I stand too long, but I did it anyway. I always do. This is my house. My kitchen. My table. David grew up in this house. So did my late husband, Bill, for 38 years before he passed. Every room holds something I didn't have the heart to box up. His books, his cufflinks, his hammer on the workbench in the garage. I guess they don't see any of that. To them, it's just 2,700 square feet of wood and brick worth over $1 million. That night, after everyone left, I just sat in my bedroom and stared at the ceiling. Couldn't sleep. Kept hearing it on repeat, "I hope she chokes so we can sell the house." Like my death would be a windfall. Like I was holding them back. I got up around 2 a.m. Walked barefoot into the kitchen, and sat at the table where I've paid every bill since 1972. Pulled out the folder where I keep my estate documents. I hadn't looked at it in years. Up until that moment, I'd left everything to David. I didn't even consider anyone else. He's my only child. I had the house, some stocks Bill left me, a decent IRA, and about $40,000 in savings. Not rich, but enough that I thought maybe it'd help him or Olivia with something someday. Maybe help with grad school. A wedding. A down payment. Something that matters. But what mattered to them was me dying faster. It wasn't just the words. It was the truth I saw in them. The cold truth they didn't even try to hide anymore. I was just a roadblock. I called my lawyer the next morning. Marjorie's about my age and knows me well. I didn't cry when I sat in her office. I told her exactly what happened. I told her I was done being naive. We rewrote the will that day. I left the house to a nonprofit women's shelter that's been active in Westchester since the 80s. They help women who've escaped abusive relationships. I volunteered there once when I was younger. It was always underfunded, always looking for space. I told Marjorie to put in the deed that it couldn't be sold for profit, only used for housing or services. The rest of my assets went to causes that would never laugh at my death. I gave Carol, my husband's cousin, a good portion too. She's never forgotten a birthday. Always sends a card. Visited me when I had surgery 3 years ago, even though she lives all the way in Trenton. She's not blood, but she's real. David and Olivia got nothing. But I needed them to know why. I cleaned the turkey pan that night, the one I'd used every year since 1984. Scrubbed every inch. Dried it. And then I wrote a note. Handwritten, not typed. They'd know it was mine. I sealed it in a Ziploc bag and taped it to the bottom of the pan. Underneath the foil I wrapped it in. The note read, "If you're reading this, I'm gone. Olivia, I heard what you said, and David, I heard you laugh. That's all I needed. The house is not yours. You won't sell it. You won't profit from my death." I changed the will that night. Everything is already transferred. You showed me exactly who you are. Now you get exactly what you deserve. Then I put the pan back in the cabinet, third shelf down, like always. They wouldn't find it until it was too late. The weeks after Thanksgiving were quiet. David didn't call. Olivia didn't send a thank you text or even a half-hearted social media post like she usually did. Nothing. Just silence. Like I'd already died. It stung more than I expected. Not because I missed them, I missed who I thought they were. But mostly because I realized I'd spent years trying to earn the love of people who saw me as furniture with a will. Then came the Christmas box. Every year, I send small gifts. Even last year, when David forgot my birthday and Olivia sent me a link to a GoFundMe she made for her trip to Bali, I still wrapped presents and mailed them. Tradition matters to me. This year, I sent nothing. That's when the calls started. First, David left a voicemail. "Hey Mom, just wondering if everything's okay. We didn't get your usual package." His voice had that strained tone he uses when he's trying to sound casual but wants something. I didn't call back. 2 days later, he called again. "Are you sick?" Olivia's worried. She wasn't. She was just pissed she didn't get her annual $200 check. I let it sit. On New Year's Eve, Carol came to visit. We sat in the den with coffee and talked for hours. I told her everything. She didn't even blink when I told her about the note in the turkey pan. "Good," she said. "You always give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they never deserved it." Carol's the kind of woman who brings her own tools when she visits. She helped me box up most of my jewelry and personal papers, just in case. I moved the new will and my important files to a safety deposit box. I wasn't taking any chances. In February, Olivia showed up at my door. She didn't call first. Just knocked like it was still her house. I almost didn't answer. When I opened the door, she stood there in her North Face jacket, holding a Starbucks cup like she was just swinging by. "Hi, Grandma," she said, fake smile and all. I leaned against the doorframe. "What do you want, Olivia?" Her smile twitched. "Wow. Okay. I just wanted to see if you were okay. We've been kind of worried. You've been distant. Did you think I didn't hear you?" I asked. Her face dropped. "Thanksgiving," I said. "You said you hoped I'd choke so you could sell my house." "And your father laughed." She didn't deny it. Just looked down at her boots. "I was joking," she mumbled. "No. You weren't." She opened her mouth again, but I shut the door. That was the last time I saw her. By April, word had gotten around. David must have suspected something. Maybe he noticed I'd moved some furniture out of the house. Maybe Olivia told him about the conversation. That's when the lawyer's letter came. Not from Marjorie, this was from some slick firm in Manhattan. It was worded carefully, concern for my health, a suggestion that I might be under outside influence. A veiled threat to contest any new will on grounds of mental incompetence. I called Marjorie. "They don't have a leg to stand on," she said. "Everything was notarized, witnessed, and backed by a capacity evaluation from your physician. But this is the first shot." She was right. In May, David filed an official challenge. The irony. I was still alive. But the fight had begun. The court filing made it real. David claimed I wasn't of sound mind when I changed my will. He even said Carol had manipulated me, citing her visits and the suspicious removal of certain valuables from the house. It was ugly. And public. I had to sit in my lawyer's office while some 20-something paralegal read aloud my own medical records, trying to frame my arthritis meds and a past bout of vertigo as signs of cognitive decline. But Marjorie had done her job. She'd had a doctor evaluate me before we signed anything. I passed every mental competency check. David didn't care. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to pressure me into changing my mind, into settling. Into letting him have the house after all. But he miscalculated. Carol had saved everything, every text he sent her, including one from early January where he wrote, "She's losing it. When she dies, we sell immediately. I already have a realtor." We submitted that into the case file. David's attorney tried to argue it was taken out of context. The judge didn't buy it. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. One of the shelter workers, the director, actually, called me in early June and asked if I was okay with them doing a walkthrough before finalizing their plans for the property. Of course, I said. It's your house soon. I met them at the front door. 5 women, all dressed neatly, all respectful. They toured the house like it mattered. They saw history in the walls. Not dollar signs. When they got to the attic, one of the women, Rosa, noticed a box tucked behind the old insulation. It had been there for decades. I thought it was just old tax papers. We opened it right there on the attic floor. Inside were notebooks. Dozens of them. They were Bill's. I'd forgotten about them, his journals. He used to write late at night, especially after the cancer diagnosis. I'd never read them. He said they were private. But one of them was labeled, David, 2003. It stopped me cold. I took that one and read it alone after the women left. What I found broke my heart. My husband had worried about David for years. He'd written page after page about how entitled he was becoming. How he was charming on the surface but hollow underneath. He talked about how David pressured him for money after dropping out of college. How he never visited unless he needed something. And in one entry from December 2003, just months before Bill passed, he wrote this. If something happens to me, I worry Mary will trust David too much. He sees her as a bank account. I pray she sees it before it's too late. I photocopied that page and gave it to Marjorie. It became Exhibit A. Suddenly, this wasn't just my word against David's. It was my husband's, too. Meanwhile, Olivia's name started showing up in the background. She had taken out a massive private loan the year before. Gambling debt. Something about online sports betting. It was all in her financial records once David listed her as a co-beneficiary in his counterclaim. Turns out they weren't just hoping to sell the house. They needed to. But it was too late. The will was airtight. The shelter's claim to the property was already recorded with the county. The courts moved faster than usual, probably because Marjorie knew which gears to turn. And the best part? They didn't even know about the note in the turkey pan. Not yet. I died on a Tuesday in August. Quietly, in my sleep. The hospice nurse said I went with a calm face. I'd been tired for a while. Not scared, not sad, just ready. My obituary ran in the paper 2 days later. Simple. No dramatic tribute, just the facts. Mary Ellen Sloan, 78 years old, survived by her son David and granddaughter Olivia. Preceded in death by her beloved husband, Bill. Donations requested to the Westchester Women's Renewal Center in lieu of flowers. They buried me next to Bill, under the old dogwood tree at Kensico Cemetery. A plain service. I'd asked Carol to handle it. I didn't want David to plan anything. He came anyway. Showed up in a black suit and sunglasses, Olivia beside him in heels that sank into the grass. They stood at the edge, quiet, probably thinking they could still spin things. That maybe someone would offer them a check. A key. A second chance. But I'd already spoken. The moment they returned to the house to go through my things, everything started to fall apart. The locks were changed. The deed had already transferred. Marjorie had filed all the paperwork months before, ironclad. The Westchester Women's Renewal Center now legally owned the house. They had staff ready to move in the next week. New furniture. Plans for 6 transitional apartments. A counseling room. A play area for children escaping trauma. David was furious. He called Carol, demanded answers. She didn't give him any. That's when they remembered the turkey pan. They found it in the cabinet, 3rd shelf down, just like always. Unwrapped it, maybe to sell it at one of the estate sales they thought they'd be hosting. They saw the bag taped to the bottom. David opened it. Olivia read the note out loud. If you're reading this, I'm gone. Olivia, I heard what you said, and David, I heard you laugh. That's all I needed. The house is not yours. You won't sell it. You won't profit from my death. I changed the will that night. Everything is already transferred. You showed me exactly who you are. Now you get exactly what you deserve. David screamed. He tried to sue the shelter again. Said the note proved mental instability. The judge threw it out in 20 minutes. A week later, the shelter moved in. Volunteers painted the porch. Kids played in the backyard. Women laughed in the kitchen I once stood in, pouring gravy, hearing betrayal. David had no place to go. He'd already taken out a bridge loan against the house, expected to flip it within months. The bank came after him. Olivia defaulted on her private loans. Turns out she used my name on one of them, illegally. Marjorie filed a fraud report with the county. Olivia's job offer fell through after a background check. None of that was revenge. That was just consequences. Revenge was silence. Was taking my love, my effort, my home, and giving it to people who'd never laugh at the death of someone who fed them, clothed them, and raised them. I died knowing the house would live on, not in the hands of users, but in the hands of women rebuilding their lives. And that note in the turkey pan. It made sure David and Olivia would never forget what they lost, and why. They thought I'd go quietly. I didn't.